And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of New York State of Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Episode 86. Ricky K here with you on a dreary Monday here in the tri-state area. A lot of rain forecast, but we are here to brighten up the day and talk some New York sports. The Mets have won 4 straight, sweeping the Blue Jays in their first Citi Field series, and Pete Alonso got some really good news off the field as opposed to his great performance on the field this week. We'll talk about that. The Yankees get a split of 6 games against Arizona and Pittsburgh. There's one part of their team that's a little bit of a concern right now, despite being 6-3, as they get set to play 3 afternoon games this week in Detroit. Jalen Brunson is back for the Knicks. Good performance last night. Knicks inching closer to clinching that 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, and they do something they haven't done since 1995. What does this season really mean for the Knicks in comparison with all the talk about disappointing it's been? Big disappointing, the Rangers. Their season's on the brink. They get embarrassed by the Devils. What does it mean, big picture, and who deserves to pay the price for disappointment? The Islanders were on the other side of history yesterday with Alex Ovechkin passing Glenn Gretzky. We'll talk about that. St. John's has another big part of the transfer portal. We'll talk MLS soccer. NYCFC takes a loss. Red Bull take a win. St. John's adds a big player in the transfer portal. Syracuse adding some players in the transfer portal as well. We have so much to talk about. Join me as well with 2 weeks till the draft. We'll talk Giants and Jets. Join me on the show. Coming up next, New York State of Sports Ice, Sports Radio, direct feed for all the sports. We'll see you in just a minute. And thank you once again for taking time after Monday afternoon to join me here on New York State of Sports and IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all the sports. Ricky K here with you. Our first show in April, because we're reaching the point of April 7th. And as I said earlier, we're about little over 2 weeks to go into the NFL draft. So we're going to get right into Giants and Jets and all those things. We'll talk about some draft on the show this week, especially with Shedeur Sanders' Pro Day last week and some news this morning involving some of the top prospects that are in the draft. But we'll lead off with baseball, of course. Before we do that, I want to remind you, of course, that you can follow us on X, IG, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube at IE Sports Radio. Be sure to go to IESportsRadio.com. We have sites for every show, including this one, IESportsRadio.com/New York State of Sports. If you missed any portion of the show or you just want to hear me talk again, download on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. Chances are that is where you'll find the show. You can follow me on X at Rickinator555. It's at RICK, letter I, Nader, like a Terminator, 3 5s. Or you can follow the show on X at NY State Sports IE. And I also want to remind you that for $5 a month, you can sign up for our supporters club. If you are a fan of the show, if you're a fan of me, we would definitely greatly appreciate that. If you sign up, we can do a show on your favorite team, your favorite New York sports athlete, past or present. You can be a guest on the show. There's so many different things that we can talk about and want you to be a part of this team. When you're a part of this team, listen to the show, you become part of this family. So we greatly appreciate all the support for this show and all the shows here on IE Sports Radio. And again, get in the comments if you would love to send in your thoughts, comments, questions. Tara Rodriguez, of course, always here checking out the show. Good to have you aboard, Tara. If you have any thoughts throughout the show, please feel free to comment on YouTube, comment on Twitch if you're on our Twitch stream, comment on X. Would love to hear from you. If you have a question you'd rather send it for a future show, you can email me, rickjkeeler@gmail.com. So we'll take our first break. We'll come back. We'll talk baseball. Mets, 4 straight wins. A lot of stuff going in their direction. Yankees get a split of their week against Arizona and Pittsburgh. Both teams off to 6-3 starts. What does that mean for both these teams as they head into another week? You're listening to New York State of Sports and IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsors.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And our special thanks to all of our sponsors here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of the sports. Plant Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, great snack to have during some baseball, especially afternoon baseball this week. National Championship tonight in San Antonio, so a lot of good snack for all these sporting events. The Masters is this week, so be sure to check that out. Again, Vital Apparel, great cause. Please support them. Their gym wear for mental health research. Seal the Deal Wax Seals for all those weddings and invitations. And, of course, follow us. IE Sports Radio. We have a cool shop with some awesome merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies. We got everything you probably asked for to support this station. Be sure to check that out. And check out our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com. Use the promo code IESR and you get 10% off your purchase. Be sure to take advantage of that today. So let's get into some baseball. And again, both New York baseball teams are playing really well. Yankees and Mets are both 6-3. After the first 9 games. Both have taken different directions to get there. But I think all in all, this as we said at the beginning of the year, it's going to be 2 good baseball teams to follow all summer. And that's, I think, all you could ask for from a New York perspective. So we're going to start the Mets today since we started with the Yankees last week. Mets took on the Blue Jays this weekend. First Citi Field home series. First opportunity for Juan Soto to make a statement. And Juan Soto didn't have that signature moment in this series. Still waiting on that, I think, from a big picture perspective. But all in all, pretty good fun series. Mets won 5-0 on Friday. Great performance from Tyler McGill. And then Jesse Winker with 2 triples, including the game-time triple in the 8th inning to set up then the walk-off sac fly by Lindor to win 3-2 on Saturday. And then a very close competitive game yesterday. Mets won 2-1 with the only runs they scored coming in the 3rd inning. A single by Pete Alonso and a sac fly by Brandon Nimmo. And very good pitching all around from the Mets. David Peterson walked 5 batters, but only gave 1 run over 4 2/3. And to put that in comparison, what the Mets pitching has done through the first 9 games, and again, these are small sample sizes. We don't really look at big picture things in baseball until after Memorial Day. It's really that first checkpoint. I don't really like to look at standings that much until that point. But the Mets starters and relievers have the best ERA in baseball through 9 games. I mean, to put that in perspective, again, you look at a starting rotation that doesn't have Sean Manaea, that doesn't have Frankie Montas, that only has had Kodai Senga make 1 start, and they're pitching pretty well. And I really love what this bullpen has done, especially yesterday. You have 1 hit over the final 4 1/3 innings. And you look at a pitcher like Max Krenick, who was one of the last players to make the roster. He has thrown 4 straight scoreless appearances, 7 innings, 1 hit ball to begin the year. AJ Minter, 2 strikeouts in the 8th inning yesterday. While the ERA is at 4.91 so far, I think he's gotten off to a good start as a Met. Reed Garrett picking up right where he left off last year. And of course, you look at Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz, a lot of concerns going into the season with his velocity. Well, he hasn't given up a run in 4 appearances yet this year. So overall, if the Met bullpen, which again, they made some tweaks to it, but you look at even just the middle relievers, guys like Kranick, Brazaban, Danny Young, who was here for a little bit. I mean, they are doing some things that is going to help because the Met starters, I think, so far, you kind of know what you're going to get. Dave Peterson should go deeper into games than you was expecting yesterday. But you look at Kodai Senga, you look at Tyler McGill, who we'll get into in a minute, Clay Holmes. Like, this is a team that maybe doesn't have the elite names pitching-wise, but is getting the job done. And that was what they did last year. And if they're going to keep doing this every 9 games or so, that's all you could ask for. They're going to have their rough weeks. They're going to have their struggles. And that's where you hope the offense, where Soto gets going, Lindor gets going, Nimmo gets going, Mark Vientos has had a slow start. He finds his form. That's when the offense will pick him up, hopefully, when the pitching drops a little bit. Speaking of the offense, let's talk Pete Alonso, who is off to a really good start this season, both on and off the field. On the field, he's had some pretty big hits and some big moments. He's hitting 290, 3 homers, 11 RBI, a 645 slug. He hit a huge 3-run homer in the 8th inning on Thursday in Miami to tie the game. It looked like the Marlins were going to take 2 of 3 from the Mets, and Pete Alonso wasn't going to have that happen. He had the single yesterday on Sunday as part of the 2-1 win. And he also got some great news off the field because late last night, Ken Rosenthal reported, and there was a bunch of Mike Deportis on Twitter does a really good job of following this the whole time. Vlad Guerrero Jr. got a 14-year, $500 million extension from the Toronto Blue Jays. What does that mean, and why does that help Pete Alonso? Pete Alonso now becomes arguably, if not the best first baseman on the free agent market next year, the second best one if a team sees Kyle Tucker as the first baseman. So you can't tell me now that a team that didn't want to pay Pete Alonso last year, somebody's going to have to pay Pete Alonso next year because somebody's going to need a first baseman. So he waited a long time this offseason, kind of failed himself and didn't really get the deal he was hoping for. If he has a good year this year, he's going to get paid, whether it's by the Mets or from somebody else. So while the Mets fans were looking at Vlad Jr., Yankees were looking at Vlad Jr., even though we all know Vlad Jr. at times didn't really show the appreciation for the Yankees as much, that pipe dream and that offseason storyline immediately disappears. And good for the Blue Jays. I mean, this is the team, and we'll talk about it more on the Bullpen Bulletin tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Blue Jays had to make this deal. They had to find a guy that was the face of their franchise. Vlad Jr. now becomes the face of their franchise. Somebody took their money, and that's all I think you could ask for in the grand scheme of things. If you're looking at it from a Toronto big picture baseball perspective. From a New York perspective, I think both the Mets and Yankees will probably be in the bidding for Kyle Tucker in the offseason. Yankees, of course, try to trade for Kyle Tucker. The Astros wanted Luis Heel. Yankees didn't want to do it. We'll see if they end up ponying up for Kyle Tucker over the winter. But like I said, Mets are 6-3, and their top guys haven't performed. If you go inside the numbers, and especially this offense, which right now, again, has done some decent things. I'm not going to sit here and say that they've been awful, but there are definitely some things that this team could work on, especially from some of their top guys. We look at someone like Juan Soto. I'm not going to, again, not go too crazy on because it's not exactly – he doesn't have to do too much necessarily to make this team what it is, but they're going to need a little bit more out of him. Lindor, we all know his struggles in April. They're going to need a little bit more out of him. Brandon Nimmo, we said Mark Vientos. I think Brett Beatty has been a disappointment. And at some point, the Mets are going to have to make a decision on Brett Beatty because I don't really know what to expect. They have Luis Angel Acuna. Beatty's also trying to learn second base. But again, go to home runs. Pete and Brandon Nimmo, only players with more than one home run. RBIs, Alonso has 11. Brandon Nimmo has 5. That's the second best player. So you look at batting average. Pete's hitting 290. Soto's hitting 250. Nobody else is above that 250 mark. You want to go to hits? Pete's got 9. Nimmo and Soto have 8. The next one is Luis Torrens with 6. So the Mets are going to need a little bit more. But I also want to shout out Jesse Winker. Now, the Mets brought in Jesse Winker at the trade deadline last year to look at make an impact. And I think Jesse Winker has done that, especially when you look at Saturday. He had 2 triples in the game, which made a big statement of what they were looking to do going forward. And I think that's a good sign for this team and what they want to do going forward. Winker brings some good veteran stability, brings the opportunity to come in and really make an impact for this team. So I like what Winker can do, and he provides a lot of good energy for the club. So you look at the week ahead for the Mets. They will take on the Marlins this week at Citi Field. Again, we'll see how the weather holds up. It's raining here right now, but it'll probably hold up until about 3 or 4 o'clock. We would think they get today's game in. Marlins are coming from Atlanta where they got rained out yesterday. They split 2 games with the Braves. Braves are off to a 1-8 start. Just absolute miserable game performance from the Braves early. Here's your pitching matchups for this week. Kodai Senga starts today. Marlins don't have a starter announced yet. It was supposed to be Sandy Alcantara, but he is going to be on paternity leave. So we'll see who ends up starting for Miami. It'll be Logan Gillespie against Clay Holmes on Tuesday, a rematch of last week. And a fun matchup Wednesday, Max Meyer, who the Marlins expect a lot out of, one of their high draft picks, against Tyler McGill, who's got a .87 ERA to begin the season. I'm not expecting McGill to pitch to a .87 ERA. I was talking to a couple of Met fans this week about Tyler McGill, and I said, Tyler McGill, he is already a good starter. He has potential to be great, but you already know Tyler McGill is going to give you consistency every time out. It may only be 5 innings, but he's going to give you a consistent 5 innings. So he's off to a strong start. And then maybe the Met offense breaks out this weekend when they go to the bandbox at Sacramento to take on the Athletics. You saw what the Cubs did out there. They hitting a ton of home runs. The ball's traveling out of there. And if that's the case, Mets are going to have a field day out there. They might see Luis Severino. Severino, I think, is pitching tonight for the A's. I'm just going to pull it up real quick just to make sure. The A's, yes, Severino's facing the Padres tonight. So there's a chance Luis Severino pitches against his former team this week, and that should be a whole lot of fun. So a couple of teams, the Mets, even though Miami's over 500, the A's are a little bit under 500 beginning of the year. I think the chance for the Mets to have another pretty good week and continue to stay atop the National League East. Let us talk Yankees. Yankees had an interesting week. They had a test this week at home against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Kind of failed it. Lost 2 out of 3. Now, they did face Corbin Burns and Zach Gallen. They got to Corbin Burns in the first game. He was out before the end of the 5th inning, but the bullpen ended up giving up Mark Lara gave up a grand slam to Eugenio Suarez. They lost that first game. Zach Gallen struck out 13 in the second game. This is still a boomer bust Yankees offense. They're going to strike out a lot, but they're going to hit home runs. And then Wednesday almost gave away a 9-3 lead, but they jumped ahead of Merrill Kelly early with an Aaron Judge home run. Jazz Chisholm did really well, and the Yankees really salvaging a game in that series. Carlos Carrasco also did a very nice job in his first Yankees start. They went to Pittsburgh over the weekend, and the Pirates have had a lot of bad PR all around. They took down the Roberto Clemente sign in right field, and now they're going to put back up. Pittsburgh's bullpen nearly blows the game yesterday. Yankees were able to take 2 out of 3. Very strong performances, especially for the bottom of the lineup, which we'll get into. But you look at this Yankees offense through 9 games, they've got 25 home runs. They've got a team OPS of 950. Both stats lead the league. Now, they've struck out almost 90 times, but even when you look at it in comparison, I thought they were going to lead the league in that. I looked at what it feels like. I looked at the stats last night and this morning. They're about 5th or 6th in baseball. So the Yankees are about that point. I can kind of live with it, especially if they're going to keep crushing the ball the way that they have. And I'm really looking at the bottom of the order, actually, is really the big catalyst for these last 3 games, especially Trent Grisham. Trent Grisham had a really good series against the Pirates. In total, he's hitting .455, 3 homers, 9 RBIs in 8 games. He came up with a clutch 2-run single in the top of the 9th yesterday to tie the game. He had a couple home runs on Saturday. If Trent Grisham's going to give them offense in addition to his solid defense in center field, then the Yankees have unlocked something. And I think it's been good to see Grisham get more playing time. Last year, he was kind of buried on the bench. They didn't use him in key split matchups. The Yankees can now do that if they want to. And there are going to be days where he plays the outfield and Jason Dominguez is the DH. They can make that work. I'm not saying Trent Grisham has to be a star outfielder, but if he's just continues to put up above average results, they're going to be pretty good. And when you look at the bottom of the order, they got the job done yesterday. They had the bottom of the order up in the 9th, and you look at Jason Dominguez drawing a walk. Oswald Peraza getting a clutch double to cut the deficit to 4-2. You look at Friday, Oswaldo Cabrera gets 4 RBIs. The Yankees were able to get a lot of walks, drive Mitch Keller's pitch count up, and Mitch Keller had a short outing. This Yankee lineup has become more well-rounded. Ben Rice, who's hitting leadoff today, has been tearing the cover off the ball. He's drawing walks. He's showing good on-base percentages. Cody Bellinger has done some good things. Jazz Chisholm's done some good things, even though he had a lot of strikeouts yesterday. My concern, though, from yesterday's game is that the Yankees offense still can't get that clutch hit when it's not a home run. When you look at the 10th and 11th innings yesterday, I would have loved if Anthony Volpe had stolen third base in the 11th, try to manufacture a run that way. So they were still lacking in the runners and scoring position department. They were 3 for 12 yesterday. They need to be a little bit better. The other concern for the Yankees right now is their rotation. Max Fried's, I think through 2 starts, has done pretty good. Carlos Rodon had a rough one on Tuesday, but was at least able to finish 6 innings, which was a shock considering the way the game started. Gave up 4 runs in the first 2 innings. Other than that, I mentioned Carrasco's been okay, but this is a Yankee rotation that's not giving them a lot of length right now. You look at the two starters over the weekend. Marcus Stroman got through 3 good innings, struggled in the 4th. Will Warren started off very well. He couldn't get through the 4, finished 5 innings. They can't last that long, the Yankees, if they're going to keep only getting 4 innings from 3 of their starting pitchers. And when you now have Clark Schmidt hopefully coming back next week, the question is going to be who's the odd man out. And it's probably going to be Warren, barring injury, because Warren's got options. My opinion, it should be Marcus Stroman. I know that Marcus Stroman is adamant that he wants to be a starter, and I get that. But if you want to be a starter and you want to get those innings, you cannot put up the starts you put up the other day. You could live for that from Warren because he's still kind of learning. And Will Warren, I thought, against Corbin Burns on Tuesday, did a really nice job. Got out of some key spots. Aaron Boone trusted him to get out of the 5th inning. He was able to do that. I think Carlos Carrasco has earned another couple of starts. And I think you want to have the veteran in the rotation at the back end that can get the job done. But it's a tryout phase, I think, for all 3 of those guys. Because somebody's going to go. Clark Schmidt's going to really help this rotation when he comes back. But the Yankees can't keep getting 15 outs from their bullpen every game. As good as their bullpen's been, and it's been good. Brett Hedrick got optioned to AAA after last night's game. He was probably a really good find for them. Hopefully they able to get him clear to AAA and keep him in the organization because they've found maybe another diamond in the rough with him. You look at Yoendris Gomez. He threw 3 solid innings the other day after Rodon. And then you go down the line. Mark Leiter, it's done okay. Luke Weaver's been excellent. Devin Williams, I think, remember he had paternity leave. He just came back. I thought yesterday he kind of made a mistake following a similar pattern to Tommy Pham on the walk-off hit. It was 3 changeups, then a fastball, 3 changeups, then another fastball, and of course the 9th pitch he throws a changeup again. So if Tommy Pham was a veteran, can kind of see the pitch sequencing, and it kind of works out in his favor and gets a much-needed hit for Pittsburgh. But I don't think we've seen enough of Devin Williams. Remember, he's only had 1 save situation in the 3 appearances he's had. So I'm willing to give Devin Williams a little bit of a pass. I don't think yesterday was on him. Weaver did a great job in those 2 innings just to get to the 11th. And Weaver's had 2 multiple inning appearances. The Yankees can't last through that. He's going to have games where he only goes an inning. They're going to get Ian Hamilton back at some point. They're going to get Jonathan Loáisiga back at some point. But the Yankees can't keep dipping into the bullpen well every game. They can't. They're going to have, and it's going to have to be Rodon and Fried. Like you look at Carlos Rodon today, he's going to have to give him 6 innings minimum. Max Fried, going to have to give you 6 innings minimum on a night in, night out basis. That's the only way this bullpen is going to be able to last through the season. So the Yankees this week, they are in Detroit. Now, being that the weather is sub 30 degrees in Detroit, they have moved all 3 games to afternoon games, which I think is the right thing to do. So they play this afternoon at 3 o'clock. It'll be Carlos Rodon against Casey Mize. I'm going to give you the lineups for both those teams, or at least for the Yankees. Ben Rice is the DH today leading off. Aaron Judge in right bat second. Cody Bellinger in left. He's going to bat third. Paul Goldschmidt at first base will clean up. Jazz Chisholm batting 5th at second. Anthony Volpe at short hits 6th. Austin Wells behind the plate hits 7th. Trent Grisham hits 8th. And Oswaldo Cabrera hits 9th at third base. It'll be Rodon against Casey Mize on this afternoon. Tomorrow afternoon, Carlos Carrasco against the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner Tarik Skubal. And when you look at Skubal, he has yet to win so far this year. He's 0-2 with a 5.91 ERA. Now, one of those starts was against the Dodgers. But Aaron Judge has said Tarik Skubal's best pitcher in the league, if you listen to his comments from last year. And then Wednesday on Amazon Prime, it is Max Fried against Jack Flaherty. Of course, the Yankees saw Jack Flaherty in the World Series last year. Why this week is, I won't say it's big for the Yankees, but it's up there. You're looking at 2 teams that are trying to have something to prove. The Tigers have something to prove because they're trying to make it to the postseason in what is a really weak AL Central right now. Cleveland is off to a 3-6 start, even though they haven't been at home yet. Most of the division is sub 500. Kansas City, I think, is around 500 right now, if not a little bit under. They're 4-5. Tigers last year won the last 2 against the Yankees, but they want to prove they can beat one of the better teams. They've got their 3 best starters going. So I think it's going to be a fun atmosphere in Comerica. And then Friday at the stadium, you want to look at who the best team in baseball right now, and you can make a case it's the San Francisco Giants. They are playing some really good baseball. They got a couple of walk-off hits from Wilmer Flores this week. They're 8-1. Justin Verlander hasn't even won a game yet with the Giants, and they're getting a lot of good offense. Willie Adames is playing well. Matt Chapman is playing well. Helio Ramos has done a good job, a couple of hits. Yastrzemski is playing well. And remember, Robbie Ray's in this rotation. Logan Webb's in this rotation. If the Giants are going to get anything from their offense, they're going to be in a really good shape. And there's I would say 4 really good teams in the West right now. I know Arizona's 5-5, but they're playing well. Dodgers are doing their thing. Padres are I think, playing well. So that's going to be a fun test for the Yankees see their 3rd National League opponent. Today is the first time they're going to play an American League opponent this year. And that's one of the weird quirks of the schedule. But all in all, I think both teams being 6-3 is a good sign. Now, before we take our first break, I want to do a little college baseball. And there's this interesting game I want to talk about that's coming up tomorrow. There's a doubleheader in Teaneck, New Jersey, between Yeshiva University and Lehman University. Now, the reason I bring this up, Yeshiva's got a 99-game losing streak. That goes back all the way to 2022. Lehman has lost 42 straight games, going back to 2023. So somebody's going to get a monumental win. I don't know who it's going to be, but if you go off to the historical stuff, Lehman has never lost to Yeshiva. They're 17-0. So hopefully for both those teams, maybe you get a split in the doubleheader. I can't imagine being a college baseball team and losing almost 100 games in a row. Like that is, you look at records that just don't get broken. That might be one of them. But we'll talk about records later that were broken with Alex Ovechkin. But let me know what you think. Like, is that one of the records that you see never get broken again? Comment here, YouTube, Twitch, X as well. Be happy to hear from you. We'll take our first break. We'll come back, talk some basketball, and the return of Jalen Brunson. What it means for the Knicks. They're 1 week away from the end of the regular season, and they've reached a milestone that they haven't reached in 20 years. But yet this season seems to be disappointing to some. We'll talk about that next coming up on New York State of Sports and iSports Radio, your direct feed for all those sports. We'll be right back talking some hoops after this.
What's up, guys? If you're looking for the best coverage of all Northern California sports, including 49ers, Giants, Warriors, then check out the NorCal Sports Report with yours truly, Andre Fernandez, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. We have guests every single week talking 49ers, Giants, Warriors, Sharks, San Jose Earthquakes, and a whole lot more, plus 3C2A. You do not want to miss this show. So tune in Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific Time to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, IE Sports Radio family and other sports families. My name is Alden Kay, and I want to welcome you to the AZ Sports Zone on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you're a fan of the Valley and the Grand Canyon State like me, then I've got the show for you. Tune in every week, where I will update you and give you the latest news for the Arizona Cardinals, Phoenix Suns, Arizona Diamondbacks, ASU Sun Devils, U of A Wildcats, GCU Antelope, and of course, the NAU Lumberjacks. Again, if you're a Valley sports fan and like all that is desert sports like me, tune in every week here on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll see you then.
Welcome back to New York State Sports and IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. Ricky K back with you as we move from the diamond to the hardwood. We talked Jalen Brunson is finally back for the Knicks. He made his return last night against the Phoenix Suns at Madison Square Garden with just about a week to go until the end of the regular season. And the Knicks, I thought, did a really good job in terms of just holding water until Brunson came back. He was good yesterday. The Knicks won 112-98. Brunson, 15 points, 6 assists over the course of 34 minutes. I was kind of surprised Brunson played that much out of the gate, but again, it's Tom Thibodeau. We all know the Knicks don't really rest starters, and they kind of go with a limited rotation, but I thought Brunson maybe only get like 20, 25 minutes to start, considering the Knicks are kind of locked in where they are right now with 4 games to go until the end of the regular season. But overall, the Knicks had a really good game yesterday. They shot 43% from 3, 54% from the floor. Suns were just miserable from 3-point range, despite Devin Booker going for 40 points. I know they didn't have Kevin Durant, but they shot 4 for 34 from 3-point. That's abysmal. And the Suns, you look at the big threes, and I hate to pile on the AZ Sports Zone because we just played their drop, but the Suns' big three probably are one of the worst in a long time in terms of disappointment, what they were supposed to be with Durant, Booker, and Bradley Beal. But OG Anunoby, we talked about him last week. He's doing a really good job. And last night, 32 points, 6 rebounds. He was 13 of 17 from the floor. Mikal Bridges had 22. Cat had 19 and 13. A strong double-double for him. OG has just been on a tear. Last 10 games, he's averaging 27 points, shooting about 46% from 3, 92% from the free throw line. And if OG is going to do this on top of with Brunson back, with Bridges, with Towns, with Josh Hart, the Knicks starting 5 is where it's at. Now the question is going to be their bench. They got Cam Payne back. They got Deuce McBride back. McBride had 8 points last night. Payne, of course, can give him some shooting. We saw Landry Shamet do some stuff. Part of the Knicks, though, with those returns, get Precious Achiuwa some minutes. Get maybe PJ Tucker some minutes. Get Tyler Kolek, who filled in well, some minutes. We saw Dion Wright getting some starts because of his defense. Their depth, it's just a matter of how Thibodeau and the Knicks continue to use it. Now, they did have some disappointing efforts this week. They did go to Cleveland on a back-to-back. I know that it's tough to expect the Knicks without Jalen Brunson to win that game, but they were pretty competitive. They had a 7-point lead at the half in Cleveland, and the Cavs managed to score 71 points in the second half. The Knicks lose 124-105. End up losing and not beating Cleveland at all this year. Now, they will play Cleveland again on Friday, and they have Boston tomorrow night, 7:30 on TNT. So the Knicks, I think the goal has got to be to get one of these games. Is it going to end their season if they don't? No. But considering, again, they have 4 games left. They have Boston Tuesday, Detroit Thursday, Cleveland on Friday, and then Brooklyn to end the year. Can they find a way to win a couple of these? I know they're locked into the seeding. I know people can argue they should rest. They should kind of just let those guys get the week or two they're going to need. But you need a signature win. And with essentially Cleveland and Boston locked into where they are, Cleveland's got a 4-game lead with 4 to go. Boston, as we said, is going to be the 2 seed. Maybe you catch Boston or Cleveland napping and you get a win and you get some confidence you can beat one of these teams. Because the reason I put in this headline, what to make for the Knicks, is they've won 50 games despite not beating Cleveland, despite not beating Boston, despite not beating Oklahoma City, despite not beating the Lakers. They haven't fared well against some of the greater teams in the league, but they're beating everybody else. And you look at what the Knicks did last night, they have now back-to-back 50-win seasons. That hasn't happened since the mid-90s. And I think when people look at this year and say it's been disappointing, I can't go that far because think about what the Knicks used to be. The Knicks used to be a laughingstock. And they've now gone on to win 50 regular season wins back-to-back years. They're now at least a stable organization. Like, that's something we should look at and give them a lot of kudos for. Now, what does that mean when we get to the postseason and there's a second-round matchup with the Celtics and maybe if they lose in 6-7 games against the defending champions? I mean, I don't know really what you're going to look at and say is the coach to blame, whatever it is, but I give this team a lot of credit with Brunson's injuries, and they've gone through their stuff. Their offense has been, I think, better than people expected, and it clicked earlier than expected. But defense is still a concern. That's weird to say with a Tom Thibodeau coach roster. Nevertheless, congratulations to the Knicks. Strong stuff. They're going to be the 3 seed. They're 3 up on Indiana with 4 to go. I can't see the Pacers catch them. Knicks have the tiebreaker as well, so they would have to lose out. Indiana would have to win out to not be the 3, which means the Knicks would either play Milwaukee or Detroit. Milwaukee's got a 1-game lead on the Pistons for the 5 seed. Bucks will play Minnesota, New Orleans, and then the Bucks and Pistons actually play each other the last 2 games of the season. Milwaukee has won the first 2, so if Milwaukee wins one of those 2 games, they'll be the 5, which means the Knicks would play the Pistons in the first round. And I think the Pistons are a interesting team. They're a young team. Cade Cunningham is having a really good year. I know the Pistons had beaten the Knicks a couple of times this year. And we'll preview the playoff matchup next week on the show. Maybe we'll have a guest for that. But the Knicks also lost one of those games without Karl Anthony Towns. I think people tend to forget that. The Knicks had also historically owned the Pistons up until this year, and I think them having the playoff experience that they do is going to be enough to get them through. We'll again dive into X's and O's next week, but right now, if I had to make a prediction, I think it'll be the Pistons. I think you'd rather play the Bucks because, yes, they have Giannis, but with no Damian Lillard, I don't know how Giannis could single-handedly beat this group of 5 starters for the Knicks in a best of 7, especially when the Knicks have just scored at will on the Bucks this year. So that's, I think, what you're rooting for. I think what you're going to get, like I said, is Knicks Pistons. Meanwhile, on the Nets side, again, 1 week to go for the Brooklyn Nets. Fortunately, they lost to Minnesota 105-90 on Thursday. Lost to the Raptors 120-109. Fortunately, because the Sixers keep losing, they can't keep moving up in the draft lottery. Nets have 4 games left. Home to the Pelicans tomorrow, home to the Hawks on Thursday, at Minnesota on Friday, and then home to the Knicks on Sunday. And then that's when we start looking at draft lottery odds and mock drafts. And Nets fans, I'm sure, have been paying attention to the Final Four and Cooper Flagg, hoping they land him, although Duke lost to Houston Saturday night, one of the craziest comebacks in Final Four history. But there's going to be a lot of great players to take a look at. So we'll eventually, as we get into May, look at potential players the Brooklyn Nets can get. But fortunately, that this season has come to a close for them, and they can maybe move on to the offseason, what they might get. And it could be an interesting offseason for the Nets because they can go a bunch of different directions with the players they get. Turning to college, let's talk St. John's. It's 4 o'clock on Monday. We talked about the meeting between them and Bryce Hopkins. Rick Pitino lands another top transfer in the portal, landing former Providence Friar Bryce Hopkins. I'm sure to make Providence too happy. Hopkins has battled injuries the last 2 years, but when he is healthy, he averages 15 points and 8 rebounds. He was one of those players that if he did stay healthy, could be an all Big East first team player. Could be he has Big East player of the year type potential. And you now go into next year with Hopkins and Zuby Ejiofor in the front court. It has a chance to be one of the better front courts, not only in the Big East, but in the country. So you look at adding Hopkins in the portal. You look at adding Sanan in the portal, like we talked about last week from Arizona State. The key is going to be now putting shooters around this team, around those two guys. Brady Dunlap entered the transfer portal. He ended last year on an injury. It was hoped that he would come back, but best of luck to him. He goes into the portal. They are going to get a visit with the Stanford guard Sellers over the course of the next couple of days. They lose out on Silas Newberry. He goes to UConn. So going to the Big East, but to a different team. But there's going to be a lot of the guards out there. And I think if you're looking at a guard that can transform this team, they need a point guard. Yes, Damian Wilcher is going to be back, but I think they do need a guy that can replace the Kadari Richmond role. If you did watch the Pitino documentary this week, the last episode, there was more clarity on the RJ Lewis stuff. Pitino sticking by the fact that he did bench RJ Lewis, and sadly, we'll see what happens with RJ. I'm still very intrigued to see go to the NBA, or does he stay in the transfer portal? If he does, he's a top 3 transfer player in the country. And hopefully for him, he could land a really marquee program if he does do that and get some special out of it. But if you're a St. John's fan, you could not help and watch the Florida-Auburn game where Walter Clayton had the first 30-plus point semifinal performance since Carmelo Anthony in 2003. And by the way, shout out to Carmelo Anthony for getting into the Naismith Hall of Fame. I was a big Melo fan growing up, big Syracuse fan growing up, and to me, one of the first few players I watched was Melo and Jerry McNamara. So when Carmelo Anthony, when I had a Denver Nuggets jersey and he went to the Knicks, I don't think Melo gets a lot of credit for what he did with the Knicks. They didn't really achieve what they were hoping. He played in the Big 3 era with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. And I think the Knicks fans are hoping Melo would have somebody else with him besides Amari Stoudemire. Considering that Melo was a very good scorer with the Knicks, did some good things. I think Carmelo is still very underappreciated here. And for him to get into the Hall of Fame, it's well-deserved. So congrats to him, by the way. But Clayton, first 30-plus point performance since Melo in 2003. And to think that Walter Clayton almost followed Rick Pitino from Iona to St. John's and then decided to go to Florida. If Walter Clayton was on this team, you're probably looking at a Final Four. That's how great Walter Clayton is. He's going to be, I think, a top 15 pick in the draft. I don't know what to make of tonight. I like Houston. I think they're going to get one for Kelvin Sampson. Their defense is good. But Clayton, if Pitino was there with him, really would have been a game changer. Nevertheless, he is playing tonight for a national championship with the Gators. But another interesting New York college team, I think it's going to be one to watch next year, and that is going to be the Syracuse Orange, who have been very disappointing the last couple of years, but they have gone out and added some players in the transfer portal that could really change some things. They've added Georgia Tech forward Ibrahim Soare, and the bigger add from Georgia Tech was Nathan George, the guard. And if you watch George coached by David Stoudemire at Georgia Tech, he would take over some games, watching against Duke and UNC. He could make an impact. George is that kind of player when you look at bringing J.J. Starling back and you look at the guys that Syracuse has in the mix. They've been very active in the transfer portal. They got Oregon State guard Nate Kings, UCLA forward William Kyle III. Syracuse, even though they lost Eddie Lampkin, he's going to go to the transfer portal. This is a make or break year for Syracuse because you look at the ACC. Yes, John Shire and Duke are going to be good. Yes, Louisville with Pat Kelsey. He's added some players. And it was really cool to see Rick Pitino announce, and when he won AP Coach of the Year, congratulations to him, and Naismith Coach of the Year, that they're going to have a home and home with Louisville. Louisville's going to come to the Garden next year. They're going to go to Louisville the following year, and that should be a fun thing for Rick Pitino. But Louisville's going to be really good. Other than that, and Clemson usually has been consistent the last couple of years, ACC is wide open. Virginia's got a new coach, Ryan Odom. North Carolina, who knows what they're going to be. They're usually okay, but they have been consistent. Wake has not been consistent. Syracuse has a chance to really make an impact in the ACC. And Autry's going to have an impact if he wants to keep his job. Because ever since Boeheim left, Syracuse has been a disappointment. So if you add those players they did in the mix and they continue to stay active and they continue to add impact players, the ACC is there for the taking. So good job by Syracuse so far, getting into the transfer portal, getting players, and making things happen. So we'll take another break. We'll come back. We'll talk hockey. The Islanders pay witness to history, and the Rangers season, well, is about to be history. You're listening to New York State of Sports and IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all this sports. We'll be right back after this.
Are you a Tar Heel, Blue Devil, Demon Deacon, or maybe even a Gamecock? Do you cheer for the Panthers, the Canes, the Crown? And check out the Carolina Sports Update every week with me, Neil Curtis, to get the latest and greatest on all the sports action in the Carolinas. We'll be talking pro sports, ACC and SEC football, basketball, baseball, and everything in between. We'll even talk a little Formula One racing now and again. So, for the best hour of Carolina sports coverage, catch me each week on Carolina Sports Update with Neil Curtis, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
And welcome back to New York State of Sports and IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all this sports. Ricky K here with you, and you heard those last two shows. Let's whine about DMV Sports in the Neutral Zone. They're going to be talking about this topic this week. Alex Ovechkin yesterday at UBS Arena against the Islanders became the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer. Tickets were about cheapest one I saw was $900 for this game. So people that complained about momentary like stoppages for these kind of recognition of moments, listen, these fans paid thousands of dollars to get into this game. They should get something special. And that was very special yesterday, what Ovechkin did. I love that Wayne Gretzky gave the Islanders credit for their sportsmanship during this moment. Alex Ovechkin also asked Ilya Sorokin for his stick in commemoration for the goal. And it's going to be interesting. Ilya Sorokin's had a really good season, and people really remember him as the goalie that gave up the record goal. But what I found interesting looking at a tweet yesterday, Alex Ovechkin scored the milestone goal 21 years to the day that the Caps won the draft lottery to get Ovechkin. And you think about kind of the era that we're spoiled in, seeing not just Ovechkin, who's got a Stanley Cup, but Sidney Crosby as well, two of the greater players in the history of the sport. And it's been incredible watching Ovechkin this year. I was talking to somebody the other day about it, and a huge NHL fan. I remember last year at the end of the season, Ovechkin did not look like himself. The Rangers had dominated the Capitals in the first round. And to come back this year and missing some time, even with the leg injury, and having a 40-plus goal season at age 39, that's incredible. He is a player. And look, the Capitals, I think right now are the favorite out of the East. They have been a really fun story to watch. But the Islanders did play somewhat spoiler yesterday. I don't think you can really spoil a moment like that. And I don't even think Capital fans really cared that they lost the game yesterday. They only scored one goal, but it was the one goal that mattered. And I also give Ovechkin credit for not wanting to score the record goal on an empty netter. Like, that to me is a big deal in of itself. So I give the Islanders a lot of credit, the UBS staff a lot of credit. They acknowledged the moment extremely well. Great job by them. Matt Gackholm had 2 goals yesterday. Bo Horvat had the goal to start the game. Pajot added a goal in the third. Islanders are they're going to fall short of the postseason. They're right now at 70. We do the math, is 78 points. They do have a game at hand, but even if they win that game, they're 5 points behind Montreal with 5 to go. I don't think they're going to be in the right position to contend. They just had their 6-game losing streak snapped the other day against the Minnesota Wild. So it's going to be a disappointing season really locally for 2 of the 3 teams. Islanders going forward, they have Nashville on Tuesday. They have the Flyers on Saturday and the Devils on Sunday, all 3 road games. Devils game is an afternoon game on TNT. And what was interesting this week about the Islanders, what's going on with Anthony Duclair. Anthony Duclair was one of the big moves that Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders made this offseason. It has been a nightmare season for Duclair. He had 11 points this year in just 44 games. That's 7 goals, 4 assists, a plus-minus of -15. And he stepped away from the team late last week. Patrick Waugh, after the 4-1 loss to the Lightning on Tuesday, said that Duclair's play has been god-awful. Now, I appreciate Patrick Waugh's honesty. I appreciate Patrick Waugh being candid, because we talk about an era where fans want coaches to kind of be more adamant and angry about players' performances. I think we look at Rick Pitino as well as somebody that will rip a team, but he won't rip a player publicly. Like, he won't embarrass a player publicly. Like, you talk about the approach he went with RJ Lewis, and I think that he handled it well in the media. Media was trying, as he said, trying to get him to comment on that. He wasn't going to do it. There comes a point where as long as you've had that conversation with Duclair, then you have every right to say it to the media. If you first rip him in the media before talking to him, then it's out of bounds. Because I think Duclair wants to hear it from his coach first before hearing it from the media. Now, we don't know how that conversation went. Again, it's been very disappointing for him this year. I don't think we'll see Duclair the rest of the year. But the Islanders have had a lot of injuries this year. Matt Barzal's been hurt for a time, and they still could use some more scoring going forward. The Islanders' power play, like the Rangers, has not been good this year. And look, There'll be a lot of questions. Lou Lamoriello, is he going to make a big move this summer? I don't think Patrick Waugh's job is on the hot seat. I think when you consider all the injuries they've had, to be at least somewhat near playoff contention. I mean, the East itself has been not good, especially at the bottom. That they at least have a shot. We're going to see what they do with that, but just a weird situation all around with the Islanders. And what's been a weird situation this year and an embarrassing situation this year has been the New York Rangers. And it was thought that after they had the overtime win over the Wild, the Vincent Trocheck goal on Wednesday, there was going to be a spark going, and then they come out Saturday and lay an absolute egg against the Devils. Absolute egg. I'm just glad they have one more game. It's against the Rangers on Thursday. But Rangers go out, they lose 4-0. Timo Meier has 2 goals. Nico Hischier, an empty netter, 26 saves from Markstrom, which we'll get into in a minute. But the Rangers right now do not deserve to be a playoff team. Montreal has won the last 2 games. They won last night against Nashville. The Rangers are 6 points behind with 6 left. They're going to have to win out to get in because you can't expect Montreal the way they're playing right now, even though the schedule gets tougher for the Canadiens, that you're going to make up that amount of ground. And to put that in perspective, why it's not going to happen, the Rangers have not won 3 straight games since mid-November. That is embarrassing for a team that made the Eastern Conference Final 2 of the last 3 years, for a team that was on the verge of maybe making the Stanley Cup last year, had big expectations this season, and have just been a dumpster fire of a team. Too many lackluster performances like Saturday, too many performances where the defense is terrible around Shesterkin. The veterans haven't showed up because you can't blame the young guys. I mean, Will Culley won the Stephen McDonald Extra Effort Award, and he has been one of the brighter spots in this team. Artemi Panarin's had another strong season. Where's Mika Zibanejad? Where's Chris Kreider? Where's those players? Because you want to see more Brett Berard, you want to see more Brennan Hoffman, and you want to see more Johnny Brodzinski. And we saw Gabe Perreault make his debut this week. JT Miller, I think, has been a really strong veteran since coming over in the trade. Chris Drury made a lot of moves to try to help, but I think Chris Drury also ruined this team this year with the memo that got sent out. The Jacob Trouba stuff, that stuff didn't get finalized till midway through the season when the Trouba situation should have been handled before the year started. Everybody's at fault. And I fear that, sadly, the only one's going to lose his job is the coach. Now, the coach hasn't helped himself either. The Rangers, you look at their power play, it's been abysmal. 6th worst power play in the league this year. They are 2 for the last 40 on the power play, and they give it more short. Vince Mercogliano tweeted they give it more shorthanded goals lately than scoring on the power play. That is terrible. They have too many veterans on this team for this to happen. Too many. So Peter Laviolette, for not making changes on the power play, for not doing anything different, he's going to lose his job. The Rangers go through another coach. And the problem is, the GM, we don't know what his relationship is with Dolan. The GM should go. I mean, Chris Drury gave up a first-round pick. Pittsburgh's going to have their first-round pick this year. Even though they added picks back and kind of bought and sold at the same time with the guys who were free agents. When you have this disappointing of a year, everybody's got to go. Because you're right now in a mix. Does this core have anything left to make a run? You're probably getting rid of Chris Kreider this summer because the relationship is just too damaged. And at some point, Chris Kreider's going to have to find another home. They're going to try to convince Mika Zibanejad to go. I don't know if that's going to work. But you can't blame the goalie. And I don't want to hear people blaming, they gave the goalie the contract. The goalie hasn't been the problem. The goalie has not been the problem, at least on the most part, because of the defense around him has just been so bad. You look at Igor this year, and the games that the Rangers have won, Igor's had a 1.55 goals against. In losses, it's about 4. It's about double. So I don't think Igor's the issue. And they can build around a goalie. They've done that. It's going to be what happens with Keandre Miller. It's going to be what happens to everything else. The Rangers can be one of the disappointments this year, and I don't know what they're going to do going forward to fix it. But they're going to blame the coach. I want to blame the GM. I don't know what coach would come here if the GM's on the hot seat. what if they're going to get a good coach in that regard. So just dumpster fire. They were bad against Devils all season, bad at Prudential Center all year, and that's just where it's at. Rangers are home to the Lightning tonight. They're home to the Flyers on Wednesday. They're at the Islanders on Thursday, and at Carolina on Saturday. So you look at these last 6 games, the Rangers only play one team that has fewer points than them. That's the Islanders, who have 1 fewer point than them. I just don't see how you can expect this team to win 6 straight and get in the playoffs. That's the only hope they have. And it's not going to happen. Meanwhile, the only team we're going to be able to talk about in the playoffs is going to be the New Jersey Devils. They haven't clinched the spot yet, but they are pretty much, I think, for lack of a better word, in the postseason. They got 89 points right now. They're going to finish 3rd in the Metro. They're 7 points behind Carolina. If you're looking in terms of staying alive for a playoff bid in the East, again, they're 10 points ahead of the Rangers for that 4 spot. So that's essentially a 5-game. The Rangers have a game in hand. So essentially they'd be 4 up with 5 to go. They're going to get in. It's just a matter of time. So you look at the Devils, again, they haven't had Jack Hughes for part of the year, and they're going to make postseason, and they're having a heck of a run. If they're going to beat Carolina, and again, we'll do all that Carolina stuff, I think toward the end of next week, because by then, next week's show, because by then the Devils only have 2 games left. So we'll get more to a brief first-round preview then, because we don't know when the first round will start in the NHL. But I wanted to shout out on the Devils. They played well the last 3 games. They've scored 12 goals. So their offense is starting to find it. And Jonas Markstrom, again, we talked about goals against averages with Igor. You want to look at Markstrom. He's got a 1.7 goals against average in wins for New Jersey. When they lose, throughout 3.4. So again, it's double the amount of goals allowed. And that's going to make sense with wins and losses. But Markstrom this year is 5th in the league in goals against at 2.43. 4 shutouts this year, 26 wins. They're going to beat Carolina. You're going to need your goalie to deliver, especially without home ice. So Markstrom, I think, is going to be more under the microscope over the next couple of weeks. But Sheldon Keefe, first year, does what he needed to do. Get New Jersey into the postseason, and it's going to happen. So at least we'll have some form of playoff hockey here, but it won't be from the Rangers. It won't be from the Islanders. It's going to be from the Devils. Devils coming up this week. They have the Bruins tomorrow night at home. They have the Penguins at home on Friday. The Islanders at home on Sunday. 4 of their last 5 are at home. Want to also shout out Brian for the Beantown Sports Pound here. Brian, what's up? He's probably still happy about the fact that Devers and Bregman had an insane doubleheader yesterday against the Cardinals. I mean, that was an insane watch for them. And he's going to have interest in our next segment, because coming up after the break, our final segment, our New York wrap-up, if you will, we're going to get into the NFL draft. Just 2.5 weeks away. We'll talk about some interesting things with the Giants and the Jets. We'll also talk some MLS, a split result for NYCFC and the Red Bulls this week. You're listening to New York State Sports Night Sports Radio, your direct feed for all those sports. We will wrap up episode 86 after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on The Defining Moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back to New York State of Sports at IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Ricky K here with you for our final sports grab bag segment. Usually football doesn't get into the grab bag. It's usually leading segments on the show, but a lot of other sports still going on. The draft's still about 2.5 weeks away. But as we get closer to the first round, a lot going on for both these teams, especially if two teams picked in the top 10. There's going to be a lot going on. Started with, of course, the big thing this week was Colorado's Pro Day, and the Giants had a lot of people from the head coach, GM, front office. Everybody that could be at the Colorado Pro Day was at the Colorado Pro Day, watching Travis Hunter, watching Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders was 62 for 67 on his throws. Some good stuff there. Travis Hunter ran some routes for him, so he had a chance to see some of that. But what's going to be interesting to see is what's going on with Travis Hunter. Now, there was a latest buzz around Todd McShay. I just rumored, I'm looking at a tweet that Adam Schefter just sent out when he was on his podcast with Ty Schmidt from the Pat McAfee show. 2+ weeks ahead of the NFL draft, there are signs that point to the Browns now using the number 2 overall pick on Travis Hunter. Now, that's kind of a surprise. Again, you would think the Browns are looking at Abdul Carter, kind of pair a 1-2 pass rush with Myles Garrett. If Cleveland gets Hunter, I still think the Browns need a quarterback, and I know that Kenny Pickett's there, and they maybe will try to look at Kirk Cousins as a trade option, or if the Falcons eventually do release Cousins, they'll try to sign him. But the interesting thing is going to be, all right, Hunter's there, but they don't have anybody throwing the ball. Like that. I'm very confused about why that is, but nevertheless, if that is the case, because I think Hunter, if you're looking at a non-quarterback, is the perfect fit for the Giants because of being able to be with Malik Neighbors, playing both positions. You think about last week, we talked about Troy Brown, who's on the Patriots, was with the Patriots and on their coaching staff. Troy Brown was kind of a two-way player with the Patriots. And you could, later in his career, you could have Neighbors learn from Troy Brown on how to do that. I think that would be a really good ad. But now the spotlight shifts, if that is the case, with Cam Ward going 1 to Tennessee. Abdul Carter. Adam Schefter also tweeted out this morning that the Giants are Abdul Carter had breakfast Sunday in Penn State with Brian Dable, and Carter is going to visit the Giants, part of a top 30 visit on Thursday at the Giants facility. And you look at Abdul Carter, best pass rusher in this draft. I know people are going to say that the Giants have a lot of pass rushers already between Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, who, of course, that 50-year option is looming for him. They added Chauncey Golston from Dallas. Why do they need another pass rusher? When you're picking as high as the Giants are picking, I don't think need comes that much into play. If you believe Abdul Carter is the best player in this draft, you take him at 3. And you make a unit of strength even bigger of a strength, because your secondary is that bad. I know they added a Debo with Deonte Banks, but Deonte Banks has been disappointing. They added Javon Holland as a safety, but I think, to me, if you want to make this, especially when you're going after Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, and Jaden Daniels, 3 mobile quarterbacks, get a pass rush and add a guy like Carter into the mix. So I still personally would take Shedeur at 3. But if the Giants are dead set on not picking quarterback at 3, they can't go wrong with Hunter or Carter. But if Hunter is going to be the pick at 2 for Cleveland and they pick Carter at 3, I'm not going to be like they made a mistake. They just better hope Shedeur Sanders doesn't pan out, because if he does, it's going to look really bad for Joe Shade and Brian Dable, which it already might. Now, there was an interesting thing this week that might help a viewer believer like me and want the Giants to take Shedeur Sanders. Darius Slayton was on Twitter this week, and there was an NFL draft writer that made a comment about Sanders' pro day and about how Sanders pats the ball a lot during his workout. And it was John Rosella had this. A lot of double tap and hitches from Shedeur today. NFL defenders closed window quickly. This was a concerning workout. Slayton gave like one of those laughing emojis and said, I promise he can pat the ball and be just fine. If DBs were so good at breaking on ball pats, they'd have 8+ picks a year. Same guys that fall for a 2-man dagger concept and give up the dig on 3rd and long every season. All season long talking about ball pat. What a joke. So very interesting that it's a giant wide receiver commenting on criticism of Shedeur. Maybe it's just seeing that NFL criticism and players always kind of take something to the fact that we nitpick these draft prospects constantly because we have months and months to analyze their tape. And I'm hoping to get my good buddy Mike Pett on in the next couple of weeks and do some draft talk with him because of how big this draft is for both these teams. But when you have a player come out that admirably toward the quarterback, who knows if Shedeur might be the pick at 3. Again, I think Sanders is that because to me, and I'll keep reading if you're listening for the first time, and why I think Shedeur Sanders should be the pick for the Giants is I think you need to get a quarterback in this draft. I think you need, if Joe Shane wants any part of keeping his job, and Brian Dable wants any part of keeping his job, they need a rookie quarterback because if they go 5 or 6 wins at Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, they're getting fired. If they get 5 wins and 6 wins and it's Shedeur and he shows some stuff for the end of the year, you probably keep your job. And Sanders changed the Jackson State program with his dad, changed the Colorado program with his dad. Now, you're not hiring Deion. Deion just got an extension from Colorado, nor am I saying to. But Shedeur Sanders knows how to change programs, knows how to be in the spotlight, knows how to handle the media, knows how to do all these things. And you're going to give him Jameis, a former number 1 pick, and Russell Wilson, who's been a guy in the spotlight for years, that can teach him these things. Those are perfect quarterback mentors for Shedeur Sanders. That's why, to me, that's the pick. Again, I'm not mad if they take Carter. I'm not mad if they take Hunter. But I still think that Shedeur, there is an option there for the Giants somewhere along the line. And as Terrence said, receiver core, you've got Slayton in the mix. Swenson's still there. They added Zach Pascal in free agency. What's left of Jalen Hyatt? I don't know. You have Theo Johnson. There's not a lot there. And that's why I think if Neighbors is here, or not Neighbors, if Hunter is here, then he probably gets more wide receiver snaps because they just need a playmaker on offense to go with Tyrone Trace. Now, he'll play some corner for sure. I think teams look at Hunter as a corner first, to start off with, and the Giants would look at him more as a wide receiver option with the ability to play corner. Because I think their bigger need is the opposite side of the ball, at least in regards to him. But we'll see. If they decide not to take Sanders, and there's other quarterback options, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck. There's another one that was interesting news this week, Jalen Milroe, announcing that he is attending the NFL draft in Green Bay. Now, the NFL is also trying to make it to where the players that attend the draft are usually the ones that come off the board early enough, because I think they would like the players to kind of be spared the embarrassment of being shown in the green room constantly, waiting to get picked, not having their name called. Geno Smith would be one I could remember. Will Levis is one I remember that was in there for a long time. We all remember the Aaron Rodgers one from many years ago. Brady Quinn. You've seen it. So if Jalen Milroe is attending the draft, it tells you that he thinks that somebody's taking him early in this draft, whether it's late first, early second. And there's that Alabama connection with Brian Dable that's in the mix. I could see Milroe being one of those day 2 options. Giants member pick 34th in the second round. So maybe they move up to the first round to get that extra year of control and trade up for a quarterback on night 1 But I think the Milrow news is something we should not take lightly to, because that could be a name the Giants look at. Moving on to the Jets. And it was also interesting. The Giants had everybody at the pro day for Sanders. The Jets did not. And the Jets really have not been prevalent at a lot of these quarterback pro days, which tells you they believed in Justin Fields as the guys we talked about last week. Now, does that mean they won't take a player like a Quinn Ewers or a Kyle McCord or somebody like that later in the draft? No, but it's not on their priority list. So if Shedeur Sanders does fall, maybe they get lucky and somebody wants to trade up to make that pick. But I think if he falls past the top 6 and falls past Vegas, I don't see a team that's going to be willing to trade up because they can get him in the teens or 20s in the draft. So to me, it doesn't seem like that's going to be a fit for the Jets. And there was an interesting comment that Aaron Glenn made at the owners' meetings this week that he wants to use all 3 running backs between Breece Hall, Isaiah Davis, and Braylon Allen. So what does that mean for Breece Hall? Breece Hall is going into the final year of his deal. Not a great season last year. And you look at the Lions systems, which, of course, with Tanner Engstrad, the offensive coordinator, you've seen Jahmyr Gibbs and you've seen David Montgomery and the use of both running backs. Can Breece Hall really get featured enough in this system to get a big payday in free agency, which I think is what he's hopefully looking for? Which begs the question, if the Jets are looking to trade, remember, they still have to give Hall an extension. They still have to give Sauce an extension. They still have to give Garrett Wilson an extension. There's an interesting name, I think, that if he's on the board, you take him, and that's Ashton Genty at 7. You could argue the Jets should still look for need. You could argue that the offensive lineman from Missouri is probably the better pick, or if Will Campbell drops to 7, the Jets could use an offensive lineman again. But with a premium offensive talent on the board, and you're looking at playmakers for Justin Fields, and you could throw him a rookie quarterback, a rookie running back that was the best running back in the country this year. If you do lose Breece Hall in free agency or via trade, you slide Genty into the mix. We've seen the Lions do this. They took Jahmyr Gibbs earlier than people expected, and he has been a success. So Glenn's been around that. If Genty's available, and again, it's going to be tough to think that. Maybe Genty last past 6 and the Bears want to trade up. You maybe drop that at 10 and get a premium pick or get some picks back. But Genty would be intriguing to me at 7 for the Jets. And again, we'll do some mock drafts about that over the next couple of weeks. But to me, that would be the pick. The other option would be Tyler Warren. But Jordan Schultz, a really good NFL insider, had on Twitter today that Tyler Warren's only had 1 scheduled top 30 visit. So I don't know where the buzz around Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren's a really good tight end. Maybe teams just don't want to take him that high. But I've been a big Tyler Warren fan. I think that makes too much sense. Jets, remember, last year had an option to take Brock Bowers. They did not. Do they want to make that same mistake again and pass on the tight end as much as their weaknesses lie on the offensive line? We'll see. But the goal for me is to get more weapons around Justin Fields. Like, that's going to make him ultimately the success. It's going to be surrounding him with talent. But you could argue surrounding Fields with offensive line is going to be the play that helps him in the long term. And finally, we go to MLS. Of course, we always wrap up with a little soccer. Gotham FC had the week off due to international play. They will be back next week, so we'll dive into more of their play then. But the Red Bulls, they started off taking on Chicago and at Sports Illustrated Arena here in Harrison, New Jersey, and they picked up a 2-1 victory. Chicago got off to an early 1-0 lead, but then Sergei Ngoma scored in the 41st minute to tie, and then they get a penalty kick, and Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting scores again on a penalty. He's got 3 goals to start the year. And again, they're relying so much on veterans, so much on goal scoring. You don't have Lewis Morgan, so you add Moting into the mix, and he has done a nice job. And they get a big 3 points. Chicago was right up there at the top of the East to start the year. So you get a home win, you'll take it, you run with it. They will play Orlando on Saturday. That's a 4:30 kick on, of course, MLS Season Pass. These two teams met back in March. It was a 2-2 draw. Orlando is coming off of a 0-0 draw against Philly this past week. So another Eastern Conference Finals rematch. But you've got to like where the Red Bulls are. They're 3-2-2, over 500 at least right now. And getting those results at home is ultimately going to be a big key in their success in a game where they didn't have a lot of possession, but they found a way to get a victory. The team that didn't find a way to get a victory is NYCFC. They were at home at Yankee Stadium taking on Minnesota United. Minnesota United's had a really good start to the season, but NYCFC laid a major egg. They got down 2 goals before halftime. They did get a goal from Keaton Parks late to at least cut the deficit in half, but by then there was it was toward the 90th minute. They didn't have enough time, I think, to really make a comeback. That's a bad home loss right there. And that's what I think you're going to look at. You've got to get results at home, especially when you're this team. And it was Tani Oluwase scored in the first minute. You get down before you even start. Will Trapp scores in the 29th minute, make it 2-0. Then Keaton Parks had the goal. Minnesota didn't have a lot of possession in this game. NYCFC had 73% possession, had 25 shot attempts, had almost 10 corner kicks, and they failed to get the result. And that's when you look at, it's going to be very disappointing. Alonso Martinez missed a penalty kick toward the end of the first half that really would have, I think, changed momentum. Matt Freese did everything he can, I think, to keep this game close, but it just was not enough. So NYCFC is sitting on just 8 points right now, and that is 11th in the Eastern Conference. If they had gotten the win, they would have been toward the top 5. So that's how, when everything is so bunched up early, you've got to get these results. Red Bulls are tied for 6th right now with Chicago and Orlando. The Red Bulls are going to have Philadelphia coming up on Saturday. That is a 7:30 kick. That is at Citi Field in Queens. So they will go from one baseball stadium to the other baseball stadium this week. And Philadelphia is playing well. They're 4-1-2. We mentioned that tie with Orlando, but they are 3rd in the East right now, tied for 3rd with Charlotte and Cincinnati. So that is a game. New York's taking a step up in competition. We talked about this schedule. And remember last year in September, they lost 5-1 to this group. So we'll see if they have an answer this time around during this matchup. But there's so much going on in New York sports. Again, we're 2.5 weeks till the draft. We'll have Knicks playoff basketball, the Devils playoff hockey, the Yankees and Mets playing well. So definitely some good things to look forward to over the next couple months. As we wrap up episode 8. Detroit, 3 afternoon games, and a good week for the Yankees in terms of competition. Tigers up there in the American League Central. Giants have been arguably one of the best, if not the best teams in baseball in the first 9 games. So a good interleague series this weekend. Giants haven't gotten off to this good of a start since 2003. We're going to go back to their Bonds days for how since the Giants have been this good. And that includes their World Series teams. The Giants are definitely making some more history this week. At least to start off with. Mets going to visit from the Marlins this week, and then they will head out to Sacramento, and I think that's where they're going to find their offense again. That ballpark is a bandbox. That ballpark is going to be where hitters love to hit this year, and this is where I think Soto can break out, Lindor can break out, Vientos can break out, and we're starting to see this offense catch up to the way the pitching has been lately. We'll see what the Knicks do over the final week. Jalen Brunson, of course, going to get more playing time. That's big, I think, to keep this chemistry going. Knicks want to get on a roll, and maybe they steal one of those Celtics and Cavaliers games. Rangers and Islanders play their final week and a half of the season. Been a disappointing year for both those teams. We'll have the national championship in basketball tonight. Transfer portal news will heat up and all those fun things. Again, we're 2.5 weeks away from the NFL draft. So we'll be back again next week. Stay tuned for some awesome shows here on the network today. So there is Chi-Town Weekly, Carolina Sports Update, this is Kansas City, Extra Mile, so much going on here on the network. Again, tomorrow night, 9 o'clock from Bolton, myself, Mike Pat, and Alden K. Couple of more baseball news as well. We'll dive into the Yankees and Mets and other teams. From all of us here at IE Sports Radio, for Larry B. and company, I'm Ricky Keeler. Saying have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you back here next week for some more New York sports talk. Until then, enjoy the week, everybody.